My coverage of Computex 2017 is brought to you by Be Quiet, Cable Mod, Vertigear, and EVGA. Go ahead and check out the links below for more info. All right, we're at Phanteks. Check it out. You guys remember this? This was Project 217 or 217 back in the day at CES in January. But they've since renamed it. The marketing has gotten a little bit smarter. I think it's now called the Shift and the Shift X. What you're looking at right now is the Shift X. This is the taller one that's a bit more conducive for custom water cooling and things like that. And then we've also got the Shift, which is the non-X version. It's a little bit shorter, but still maintains more or less the same footprint. This is really just a very flexible design. You can mount it either vertically, as you see here, or horizontally, depending just on sort of the situation that you're trying to go for. This looks like it could easily be on like a really nice desk area if you're just trying to use it for a regular desktop, or if you wanted to use it as an HTPC, it does look like it would go really well in the living room also. So there's definitely a lot of flexibility here, but let's go ahead and take a little quick 360 here. You can see we've got tempered glass side panels on both the left and right sides. This is kind of a brushed aluminum. Is this aluminum, I believe? Yes, aluminum here, and then we've also got an aluminum cover on the X model. It's plastic on the non-X model, but still seems very rugged and durable. And if you look at the left side here, first off, let's just go ahead and, well, you know what, first off, let's take off these side panels so we can get a look at this. Let's get this thing undressed. So this is the left side here, and we've got a sort of a two-chamber design. On the top, you've got your motherboard and your CPU. They've already decked it out with custom water cooling, just to give you an example of just how insane you can make this system here, even though it is fairly small form factor. You also have this sort of middle area that sort of divides the two compartments for some cable management, and it does have this magnetic door that pulls down for easy access, which I really kind of like that design. And if you look at the bottom here, you can see that there's a, oh wait, actually I forgot about the 140 millimeter fan right here. So that's actually set to exhaust, and the fact that you actually have one of the side panels here, if you notice that section in the middle, that also helps compartmentalize this chassis so that you actually can have one fan exhausting air at the top, and maybe you have a couple fans intaking at the bottom, and so those two airflow paths don't intersect or interfere with each other. So right here we've got two 140s, you can do two 120s as well, not to mention radiator support up to 280 millimeters for your AIO or custom liquid cooled radiator. You can see they've already mounted, of course, a nice little reservoir in here. At the bottom of the case here, we've got a 140 millimeter fan set to intake. It pulls air from the bottom and brings it up through the rest of the case, at least where it meets the middle section separator here. And you actually have a couple options for the power supply. Right now they have an SFX unit that's mounted in here with a nice little shroud actually, so it kind of covers some of the cable entry. However, you can opt for a full-size ATX unit. However, you will also have to drop that shroud if you opt for that. But it is nice to have the optional flexibility either way. If you take a look at this side, you've got some front I/O, or should I say rear I/O. This is actually the back of the case we're looking at. You get two USB 3. I kind of just like how it's at the back, so it's a bit more discreet if you want just a more clean, minimalistic design. At the back here, you can see that there's the power supply fan they've set properly, and there's just a ton of cable management at the very back of the chassis. You also get two SSD mounts at the back here. There's two more on the inside, so that gives you four 2.5-inch drive support as well as two 3.5-inch drives. And then if you look over, I just like how there's like a lot of like Velcro straps, tie-down points, very thoughtful. Every single inch of this chassis seems to be utilized for a purpose. And if you go onto this side, you see this is where the graphics card is mounted, sort of on a side, sort of vertical orientation, and you can actually change the left or right orientation based on which way you want the card to face. So you can see here we've got a really nice shot of their water block here, but you could flip it completely 90 degrees, or I guess 180 degrees, sorry. If you wanted to, let's say this was an air-cooled card, you could actually open up the card for a little bit more airflow by facing the fans away from the tempered glass, or of course you could opt for a more aesthetic look if you wanted to just show off the nice shroud there. At the top of the case, now we've got this nice little door here. Again, this is made out of aluminum, very sturdy construction, kind of like how it's on a sort of a spring suspension here. It's very sturdy. And you've also got to look at the rear I/O for your motherboard. I guess you could call this a top I/O because it is sticking out the top. You can actually route your wires through the hole in the back very seamlessly. You actually wouldn't see where they're exiting out from the front, so that's a really clean system there. Or you could actually route the cables all the way down behind this back panel out the bottom if you wanted it to be even more discreet for a nice, clean, tidy setup. So I really can't wait to get my hands on one of these things, of course, if Phanteks is willing to part with a sample in the near future, because it does definitely seem like there's a lot you can do in very little space here. And in case you guys were wondering or wanting to get your hands on one of these yourselves, you can opt for the X version, which is 159 US MSRP, or the non-X Shift, which is going to go for about 109 USD MSRP. So look forward to these very soon in the near future. So I honestly can't remember if I've filled you guys in or even hinted at this, but I am planning a pretty epic water cooling system in the very near future. in collaboration with Phanteks using one of their super high-end cases. I'm sure you guys can guess which one I'm talking about, but it's going to feature a lot of their water cooling hardware as well, including some of these fittings. These are some 16mm. These are really built for PETG tubing, so it is going to be a hardline system, which I'm super excited to start working on, as well as some of these very beautiful water blocks. And these are pretty much, no matter, even if you're, depending on if you're a Gigabyte fan, MSI, Asus, you pretty much have your pick of the litter in terms of compatibility. They even have different stylized designs. You can see that one of them is like completely chromed. The other one has this really nice sort of matte black finish, which I really like. The main point is that they're ready for purchase and they absolutely look fantastic. So look forward to that as well. So check this out, guys. This is also a new sort of innovation from Phanteks. These are their Halos. I guess they're calling them RGB fan frames, and it's a pretty good name for them. Essentially, this is sort of what the construction looks like after it's, or before it's really finished. This is the aluminum design, and you can see that basically all of these fans are illuminated, not the fans themselves, but actually the LED strip that goes within this sort of fan frame. It's a really cool design here. What problem this solves is when you have a super high-end fan that delivers really good airflow or good static pressure or whatever, but might not have the RGB implementation that you're looking for. And oftentimes RGB fans, while they look really pretty, don't always perform that well. So this is kind of like the Antlion mod mic approach, where you can use your own set of headphones, but also add a really high-end microphone without having to sacrifice your current cans. So this is sort of the same model that we're looking at, more or less, where you can actually use pretty much any fan you want, whether it's 120 or 140 millimeters, and still have the RGB functionality. And it looks absolutely fantastic, whether it's on black blades or white blades. I think the white blades look a little bit more eye-catching. The color definitely reflects a little bit nicer, but it looks beautiful on either or. As far as controlling goes, the LEDs themselves can be controlled either through an RGB controlled case from Phanteks, of course, or you can actually wire them directly to a supported motherboard and take advantage and control all of the custom features via software. So you kind of have your option in that regard. As far as pricing goes, both plastic models, all the plastic models are the same price, whether you're going 120 or 140. That's going to be $9.99 or $9-10 more or less. You've got $17 and $19 respectively for your 120 and 140 millimeter variants. Now, for those of you who are thinking about pulling the trigger on the Enthoo Pro M, or maybe are just a huge fan already of this case, now there's a special edition that's going to make the old one seem just a little bit less special. And the reason for that is, well, there's a couple of reasons. First of all, you get a really nice tempered glass side panel, which just looks fabulous. I think I'm a personal believer in this, even though some people call it a fad. Once you have tempered glass on your case, you don't ever want to go back to acrylic, just because, first of all, it looks amazing and it doesn't scratch nearly as easily. So that's actually a nice bit of functionality built in. You also get some nice RGB element upgrades here, including a pair of 140mm Halos fans that we just talked about. So you get two 140s, I believe one in the front, one in the back perhaps. Of course, you can arrange them any way you like. And you also get integrated RGB functionality built into the case itself, so you can change the colors on that. Or you can actually just plug the fans again into the motherboard itself and control it via the software for however you choose to customize your LEDs. Check this out, guys. This is the R160. This is part of their Glacier series here at Phanteks, and just look how small. I'll use my hand for scale. This is a really small little compact reservoir here, but it's actually pretty flexible as well. You can actually mount it to either a 120 or 140 millimeter fan. It does come with a mounting bracket, and that mounting bracket also includes an RGB strip that sort of makes direct contact in a way with the unit and just kind of provides a really nice electric glow to the whole system, or the whole unit, I should say. So that's kind of a prime example of what it looks like all fired up. It looks really cool. And yes, RGB, you can pretty much tailor it to whatever your heart's content depending on the color scheme you're trying to achieve. There's a lot of inlet and outlet options here as well. So you can see right here it's mounted in a vertical position, but if you wanted to, let's say you wanted to mount it to the top of your case or something like that, you could mount it horizontally as well. And I also do like the fact that since it is so slim, you can kind of just see it like a really thin profile there, you could mount it to the more back side of your case, or you can bring it up to the front as well. Now if you take a look at the back here, you'll see that there's an aluminum heatsink, and on the underbelly of that, on the internals, there's actually a copper base plate, so it does provide a bit more thermal dissipation and heat conductivity for the liquid inside, which should theoretically help with thermals. So that's really nice to see. Additionally, you can see that there's sort of a, looks like a little area for a pump here, and while the pump is not included, you could, if you wanted to, add in your own DDC pump and actually make this sort of a combo res pump unit, which would save even more space in, say, a small form factor system, or just in any case in general. $89 US MSRP, available Q3. Watch out for this guy. coming soon. All right, guys, check this case out. This is the Eclipse P300 at a measly $59 US, which is absolutely insane. You can bet your bottom dollar that I'll be doing a budget build in this case as soon as it comes to market. This thing's absolutely incredible. It sort of builds on the same sort of model as the P400, which is a very well-received and very popular budget case. This is even cheaper than that and offers still a lot of functionality for what you're paying. So first off, tempered glass side panel. Phanteks is really privy to these, and I really like the direction that this is going. Being able to get tempered glass just for this price point is absolutely incredible. And you can see that it's a sort of a smaller window here. It does have like the blacked out perimeter that you can see there, but you can see that it ends right here where the power supply shroud is. First off, you get a power supply shroud. It's nice to have a basement again for this cheap of a case, and you can see that it just tidies up the cable management overall. There's a bit of an LED accent that's going to be right along here. Just a nice little tasteful strip, as well as the power button up top, along with some front panel I/O, audio and headphone jacks, USB 3. And I believe this is the RGB controller, so you can actually control the RGBs, of course. That's pretty redundant. 140 millimeter fan mount right here with a fan filter, or a dust filter, I should say. And it looks like from the inside here, you also get up to 280. Don't quote me on this because this is still sort of a prototype, but there's definitely going to be some sort of robust radiator solution at the front of the case here. It looks like there's 280 millimeter mounting points here. It might be 240. I'm going to say 280 because that number is higher and I like it. Look at that nice big CPU cooler cutout. That's also very nice to see. And since this is a budget case, you don't get like rubber grommets or things like that, but it is also very minimalistic. It's got a nice little cover here on the front where the cables can just route behind, and I think this is a really nice solution that I would prefer over just massive cutouts that are very visible. So overall, a very clean setup here. Flipping around to the back here, you can see we've got a couple SSD mounts, 2.5-inch drive mounts. That's very nice to see. Plenty of space for cable management, also thoughtful tie-down points along the back of the motherboard tray. And here at the front, we have your hard drive cage. It looks like you can fit two 3.5-inch drives here, and it does look like there's also some space here for cable management. You can route your SATA cables through that front grommet right there. You can route your cables through that front cutout right there. That's not a grommet. I mentioned that there are a lot of design features that sort of lend itself to the P400, one including this, just sort of how the front ventilation looks. First of all, it sort of has that similar aesthetic. It's not quite the same, but very similar, and the ventilation is going to be existing at the top and the bottom of the case. Looks very ample. Like the actual spacing between the vents is pretty generous, so it doesn't look like it's going to be starved for airflow by any means, because it looks like you're not going to have a super wide open ventilation all across the front of the case. You can expect this case coming out very soon in Q3 of 2017. All right, y'all, that's going to conclude it for my coverage here at the Phanteks booth at Computex 2017. Thank you so much again to my sponsors for making this trip possible: EVGA, Be Quiet, Vertigear, and CableMod. Go ahead and check out their stuff in the description below. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next video very soon. Have a good one. Peace!